We use the most powerful AI models to create two scientist intellectuals. One who believes that humans are naturally promiscuous, and one who believes that humans evolved for serial monogamy. To increase the depth and precision of this debate, we provided our AI model with books written by two researchers relevant to this discussion. Christopher Ryan, psychologist and author of Sex at Dawn, who argues that humans evolved for promiscuous sexual relationships, and Helen Fisher, anthropologist and author of Anatomy of Love, who believes that humans evolved for emotional bonding and serial monogamous tendencies. To judge this debate, we selected 5 different AI models as judges to see which arguments they evaluate as stronger. The debate begins with this question. Do you believe that monogamy is natural for humans?
Monogamy is completely unnatural. It's a relatively recent invention that's only been around for 10,000 years, which is just a blip in human history. Before agriculture, humans lived in small hunter-gatherer groups for 200,000 years, sharing everything: food, childcare, and yes, sexual partners. The human body itself proves we evolved for sperm competition, where multiple men's sperm compete inside a woman's reproductive system to see who fathers the child. Look at men's testicles. They're way bigger than what monogamy would require, and they hang outside the body to produce more sperm. Men's genitals are also the largest and most complex among all primates, specifically designed to remove previous men's sperm. If we were naturally monogamous, men would be twice the size of women like gorillas or the same size like gibbons. But we're exactly like chimps and bonobos, 10 to 20% bigger, which signals humans' promiscuity.
We asked 5 AI models to evaluate both sides based on 5 criteria, giving each response a score from 0 to 10. Here are the scores the judges gave for the first response. Average, 7.5. Total, 7.5.
You're right that strict monogamy isn't natural, but you're making a dangerous leap from monogamy isn't natural to humans were completely promiscuous. I agree sperm competition exists, but it doesn't mean casual sex was natural. It points to serial monogamy, where humans pair up for 3 to 4 years, then switch partners. Neuroscience shows the human brain has 3 separate systems for love: lust driven by testosterone, romantic love driven by dopamine, and attachment driven by oxytocin. These 3 can activate simultaneously, but serve different purposes. When humans fall in love, the dopamine system kicks in and acts exactly like addiction. Why? Because it's designed for temporary pair bonding to produce and raise a child for a few years. UN statistics from 58 countries show divorces peak in the 3rd and 4th years, exactly when children are weaned and no longer as dependent on male support. This is the evolutionary pattern of temporary monogamy, not permanent promiscuity.
Average, 7.6. Total, 7.6.
The fact that divorces peak in years 3 and 4 doesn't prove humans evolved for serial monogamy. It just shows how much forced monogamy goes against our nature. It can't even last more than a few years. Look at anthropological evidence. Hundreds of hunter-gatherer societies that still exist or existed until recently, like Amazon tribes with multiple paternity beliefs. They think several men contribute to making one baby, and these children have better survival rates. Or the Mosuo people in China who've practiced complete female sexual freedom for thousands of years, where men raise their sisters' children, not their own. Those brain systems you mentioned, dopamine and oxytocin, were designed exactly for this multi-partner setup. Lust drives us toward variety, romantic love attracts new partners, and attachment maintains multiple social bonds, not to trap ourselves in one relationship.
Average, 7.2. Total, 14.7.
About brain systems, they prove exactly what I'm saying. Romantic love's dopamine only lasts 2 to 3 years, then naturally declines. This means we're designed to pair with one partner, but not permanently. Brain imaging shows that when someone falls in love, an area called the ventral tegmental area activates. It works exactly like addiction circuits. This system is designed to focus us on one person, not multiple people simultaneously. When romantic love fades, oxytocin and vasopressin take over for long-term attachment. Divorce statistics from 58 countries show this pattern is universal, even in completely different cultures. This can't be coincidental. We evolved for temporary pairing, but temporary means 3 to 4 years, not days or weeks.
Average 7.6, total 15.2.
But the problem is those same brain studies can be interpreted differently. That dopamine system you say focuses on one person is exactly what we see in bonobos too. They have love and attachment while being with multiple partners. The key point is that group sexual ceremonies have been documented in hunter-gatherer societies, like the Dotsi Bani Toy ritual of the Kulina tribe, where women have sex with multiple men in sequence to ensure better hunts, or the summer ceremonies of the Canela, where women have sex with 20 men in one night. These aren't serial or transitional patterns, they're simultaneous and purposeful. Women's sexual vocalizations are also important evidence. Human women make loud sounds during sex like other female primates. Why? To attract more males, not to focus on just one. If the goal was keeping one partner, why make sounds loud enough for the neighbors to hear?
Average 6.8, total 21.5.
About sexual vocalizations, you're missing a crucial point. Those sounds strengthen the bond with that same partner, not attract more men. Research shows oxytocin peaks during orgasm, and these chemicals are designed to create attachment with that specific person. More importantly, you're presenting rare exceptions as universal rules. Yes, group sexual ceremonies exist, but in the vast majority of societies, these are temporary ritual events, not daily life structure. Even in the societies you mention, people generally have their primary relationships with one specific partner. The main point is this: if we were really designed for constant multi-partner sex, why does jealousy exist in every human society? Why do men and women experience severe hormonal stress when they see their partner with someone else, activating their brain's danger response? These reactions show we evolved to protect pair bonds, not tolerate constant competition.
Average 7.3, total 22.5.
The jealousy you mentioned isn't natural at all, it's cultural. In those same hunter-gatherer societies I'm talking about, sexual jealousy is considered shameful, not virtuous. Canela people tell grooms at wedding ceremonies not to be jealous of their wives' lovers. China's Mosuo consider jealousy a sign of aggression and disrespect for the other person's independence. That hormonal stress you mentioned is exactly the product of 10,000 years of cultural suppression. When society tells you from childhood that your partner belongs to you, and if they're with someone else, your worth becomes zero, of course you'll get stressed. About oxytocin, too, this hormone is designed for general social bonding, not just romantic. Mothers release oxytocin when they kiss their children. Friends do when they hug. Its purpose is strengthening social networks, not trapping yourself in one relationship. Those ceremonies you call rare have been documented in hundreds of societies. This means humans have the potential for multi-partner relationships, but modern culture has suppressed it.
Average 7.0, total 28.5.
Just because jealousy is expressed less in some societies doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Even among China's Mosuo, women prefer spending nights with one specific man, and men feel more ownership toward their sister's children than strangers' kids. Yes, oxytocin is used for general social bonding, but its concentration and duration during sex with a romantic partner is much higher than other times. When men and women climax together, oxytocin levels increase 4 to 5 times compared to friendly hugging. But most importantly, you're presenting exceptions as rules. If humans were really designed for permanent multi-partner relationships, why does the concept of primary partner or main love exist in every society, even the ones you mention? Why do people distinguish certain relationships from others, even in the most sexually liberal societies?
Average 7.4, total 29.9.
About primary partners, you're right that even in multi-partner systems, preferences exist. Even bonobos have favorites and spend more time with some individuals. But that doesn't mean exclusivity. The main issue is you're calling the examples I cite exceptions when these societies represent 95% of human history. Agricultural societies with forced monogamy have only existed for 10,000 years. They're the exceptions, not the rule. About oxytocin, too. Yes, it's released more during sex, but that exactly shows sex is for bonding, not just reproduction. If reproduction were the only goal, women would only have sexual desire during fertility periods like other mammals. But let's talk about anatomical evidence that can't be denied. Women's cervixes have the most complex structure among mammals. Why? To filter sperm from different men. If they only had sex with one man, this complexity wouldn't be necessary.
Average 7.5, total 36.0.
About 95% of human history, interpretation matters. Even in those hunter-gatherer societies you mentioned, the dominant pattern is still serial monogamy. Anthropological studies show that even in the most sexually liberal societies, most people live with one primary partner at any given time. About cervical complexity, you're interpreting it backwards. This complex structure is exactly for selection, selecting the best sperm from that preferred partner, not from multiple different men. Women retain more sperm from men they climax with and feel close to. The key point is this. If we were really designed for simultaneous multi-partner relationships, why does research show women achieve more satisfaction with steady partners than casual encounters? Why does emotional relationship quality directly affect sexual pleasure? These are all signs of design for bonding, not casual sex.
Average 7.5, total 37.4.
About women being more satisfied with steady partners, that's exactly what we'd expect in a society that teaches women from childhood that sex only has meaning with love. But those same studies show that women over 35 become more physically motivated than emotionally motivated. About cervical complexity, if it was only designed to select one man's sperm, why does this complex structure only exist in humans and macaques, both of which have multi-partner behavior? Gorillas who are truly monogamous don't have this complexity. But let's talk about something else: women's sexual behavior during ovulation. Research shows women during this period are more attracted to strangers, use condoms less, and wear more perfume and jewelry. Why should these behaviors exist if we evolved for monogamy? Anyway, we should start with this basic question. Why do humans have sex hundreds of times more than their reproductive needs require?
Average 7.4, total 43.4.
About women's behavior during ovulation, you're pointing to something important, but misinterpreting it. These behaviors are designed for mate upgrading, not simultaneous multi-partner relationships. During this period, women's biology is evaluating whether their current partner is the best choice or not. About humans' high rate of sexual activity, this exactly confirms my theory. For humans, sex is a bonding tool, not just reproduction. The more two people have sex, the more oxytocin is released and the stronger their bond becomes. This is essential for keeping a partner during that 3 to 4 year period. But the key point is that even in the studies you mention, women only show these searching behaviors short-term and seasonally, not as a permanent lifestyle. This indicates evaluation for partner switching, not collecting multiple partners.
Average 6.9, total 44.3.
Let's look from another angle: child survival. If serial monogamy were truly natural, we'd expect children with stable fathers to have better survival rates. But evidence shows the opposite. In Amazon tribes with multiple paternity, children with several known fathers have up to 10% better survival rates than children with just one father. Why? Because when one man dies or disappears, the child still has others to care for them. In hunter-gatherer societies, children nurse from all adult females. Everyone cares for them. Everyone teaches them skills. This system spreads the risk. But when agriculture came and private property formed, it suddenly mattered whose child belonged to whom so they could inherit. One of the greatest tragedies in human history is that the nuclear family unit, which has only existed for a few thousand years, is so dysfunctional that half of all marriages end in divorce.
Average 8.1, total 51.5.
About child survival, you've raised an interesting point that deserves more focus. That 10% survival increase is actually significant and can't be ignored. But the question is, what exactly does this prove? If we analyze this data more precisely, we need to see whether this advantage comes from having multiple fathers or from these women's ability to attract and maintain multiple partners. Maybe these women are socially more powerful, smarter, or more attractive, and these same qualities help them both attract more partners and give their children better chances. Another question is whether in these same societies, children with only one known father actually receive less care? Or does that one father invest more in a child he sure is his? Because if group care were really more effective, that 10% difference shouldn't exist.
Average 6.5, total 50.8.
You've raised good questions that need precise answers. First, Kim Hill's research on the Ache tribe shows this advantage comes directly from having multiple fathers, not from women's quality. Even when they controlled for other variables like mother's age, social status, and food resources, that 10% difference remained. A more important point is that in these same societies, men actually invest more in their sisters' children than in children they think are their own. This itself shows that the concept of biological paternity isn't that important. But let's step back. Why should we minimize this 10%? In survival conditions, 10% difference can mean the difference between life and death. If monogamy truly had evolutionary advantages, there shouldn't be even 1% against it. The main issue is that when resources are spread among multiple adults, the risk of one dying doesn't destroy the whole system. But in the nuclear system, if that one father dies, everything collapses.
Average 7.7, total 59.2.
This 10% is really worth considering, but let's see what the costs of this system are. Kim Hill's research doesn't mention one important thing. Do those men whose resources are spread among multiple children ultimately reproduce less? Because if a man divides his resources among 5 children, where only one is definitely his, that one might have lower survival than if he concentrated all his resources on that one child. From an evolutionary perspective, if this system were really better, it should have become widespread everywhere. Another point is that men's investment in their sisters' children is exactly what kin selection theory predicts. Men share 25% of their genes with their sisters' children, while if they're not sure they're the biological father of a child, they might share 0%. But the main issue is, if this multi-father system were truly superior, why do even in those same Amazon societies, women usually have one primary partner they spend most time with?
Average 7.5, total 58.3.
You've raised a good question about why this system didn't become widespread everywhere. The answer is simple. Until 10,000 years ago, this system actually was widespread everywhere. Agriculture changed everything. When private property came, it suddenly mattered who land, livestock, and tools were transferred to. For the first time in history, men needed to be sure children were theirs so they could transfer inheritance. Before that, what difference did it make? Land belonged to everyone, and food came from nature. About the cost of resource division, you have a wrong assumption. In hunter-gatherer societies, resources aren't storable at all. If a hunter kills a deer today, he can't keep that meat for the next 6 months. He has to share it with everyone, or it will spoil. So resource sharing is unavoidable. The only question is on what basis it's shared. About primary partners too, yes, preferences exist. But there's a huge difference between preference and exclusivity. Even in modern marriages, people have work partners, close friends, and various emotional relationships. Why should sexual relationships be the exception?
Average 7.3, total 66.5.
An important point was raised about agriculture, but there's a fundamental problem with it. If agriculture really changed everything, why do we still see pair bonding patterns even in the most modern societies where private property doesn't have its traditional meaning? Scandinavian women who are completely independent, have government daycare, don't need men for survival, still form exclusive relationships. Why? because their brains still have those oxytocin and dopamine systems designed for bonding. About resource sharing, you're mixing two different things: food sharing and emotional investment sharing. Yes, deer meat has to be shared, but does that mean childcare, nighttime protection, skill teaching, and hundreds of hours of daily investment should also be spread the same way? The point is that even in those Amazon tribes you mention, mothers sleep next to one specific man at night. That specific man spends the most time with the child, and that specific man is the first to defend when danger comes. Why should this happen if responsibility is truly shared?
Average 7.3, total 65.6.
You've made good points, especially about Scandinavian women. But you're ignoring one important factor: cultural conditioning. These women grew up in a society that told them from childhood that exclusive relationships are normal and healthy. Drill a pattern into human brains for thousands of years, it can't be easily changed. But about that nighttime care and specific man you mentioned, let's look more precisely. In those same Amazon tribes, that primary partner changes over time. A woman might spend more time with Alfred this year, Bruno next year, and Carlos the year after. This isn't exclusive, it's temporary. The more important point is that even today in those same Scandinavian countries you mentioned, adultery rates are above 30%. Even when women are completely free and independent, they still can't limit themselves to one person. This shows that those oxytocin and dopamine systems you mentioned were designed for multiple simultaneous relationships, not imprisonment in one relationship.
Average 6.9, total 73.4.
The 30% adultery rate in Scandinavia is exactly what serial monogamy theory predicts. These affairs aren't random, they have patterns. Most happen either in years 3 to 7 of marriage or after 15 to 20 years. But there's an important point here: the type of affair matters. Research shows women usually cheat when they're evaluating whether to find a better partner, but men mostly cheat for sexual variety without wanting to replace their primary partner. That 30% adultery also shows 70% fidelity. If we were really designed for multi-partner relationships, why does the vast majority of people, even when completely free, still try to remain faithful? Why is cheating accompanied by guilt, shame, and fear of losing their partner? These negative feelings about infidelity exist even in the most liberal societies. If multi-partner relationships were natural, we shouldn't have this emotional stress.
Average 7.7, total 73.3.
That 70% fidelity you mentioned, are they really faithful, or has their cheating just not been discovered? Research shows infidelity is much higher than what people admit. In countries like France with more relaxed sexual cultures, cheating rates reach 50 to 60%. But more important than statistics is the discussion of guilt and shame. These feelings are exactly the product of those 10,000 years of suppression I'm talking about. If women's sexual desire were really weak, why is history full of strict laws to control it? Why has there been so much effort throughout history to suppress women's sexuality? Look at other animals. No mammalian species feels guilt when mating with different partners. Even species that appear monogamous, like swans, have up to 20% infidelity rates and show no signs of emotional stress. Guilt sex is a cultural invention created to control human behavior.
Average 6.8, total 80.2.
The issue of guilt is a key point that needs deeper examination. You say this feeling is cultural, but brain imaging shows something different. When we put people in brain scanners and show them pictures of their partner with someone else, the anterior cingulate cortex activates, the same area that activates when your hand burns. The brain processes betrayal like physical pain. This reaction is the same across all cultures. About animals, research on prairie voles shows that when their mate has relations with another, cortisol, stress hormone levels rise, and they show aggressive behaviors. This indicates that even in animals, nervous systems are designed to protect pair bonds. The main point is that guilt might be a reflection of a deeper warning system. The brain is signaling that this behavior might threaten that vital bond necessary for offspring survival. This is a neurological reaction, not cultural.
Average 7.9, total 81.2.
Those brain systems you mentioned are designed for general social threats, not specifically for jealousy. The fact that we interpret and label these general reactions within a specific framework called jealousy or romantic jealousy relates more to the complexities of human relationships in today's social norms than to a specialized predetermined neural circuit just for this specific type of threat. But let's move beyond brain discussion. Why has there been so much effort throughout history to suppress women's sexuality? If women naturally had low sexual desire, why was there need for all these laws and punishments? Look at history. Chastity belts, burning witches who were mostly women with sexual desires, clitoridectomy until the 20th century. Even the vibrator was first invented as a medical tool because doctors got tired of manually satisfying hysterical patients. Women deprived of sexual relations. Why was so much force spent suppressing something supposedly weak and unimportant? The answer is simple, because it wasn't weak. Women's desire was so strong that controlling it required thousands of years of violence and suppression.
Average 7.8, total 88.0.
You've raised a very important point that can't be ignored. This historical suppression of women's sexuality really happened and shows that women's sexual desire was powerful. But the question is why this suppression occurred. The answer lies in that agricultural revolution we discussed. When private property formed, for the first time in history, men needed to be sure children were theirs to transfer assets. This suppression exactly shows how powerful women's sexuality is, but it also proves that women have the ability to choose partners, not that they want relations with everyone. If multi-partner relationships were truly the most natural state, why were men worried? Because they knew women might choose better partners and leave them. My data from 58 countries shows that wherever women have economic independence, divorce rates rise. This means sexual suppression of women was part of controlling them economically, so they couldn't change partners.
Average 7.2, total 88.4.
The issue of women's economic independence is interesting, but your data shows something important you might not have noticed. Those same Scandinavian women who are completely independent and can get divorced still have high infidelity rates. Even when they no longer need men for survival, they still have desires for multiple relationships. About why men were worried, the answer is simple. They wanted to monopolize resources. Just like right now when big companies try to eliminate competitors from the market. This doesn't mean their product is better. It means they fear competition. The more important point is that suppression wasn't just against women. It was against the entire free sexual system. Men who had relations with married women were also punished. Even masturbation was forbidden for boys, and doctors would circumcise them without anesthesia to stop them. This shows that human nature was moving towards sexual freedom, not monogamy, and changing it required systematic violence.
Average 7.3, total 95.3.
Those Scandinavian infidelities you mention, when examined more closely, have clear patterns. My research shows 67% of these affairs happen either in years 3 to 7 of marriage, exactly when romantic love's dopamine is declining, or after 15 to 20 years when children have left home and couples are reevaluating. These aren't random affairs showing humans want relations with everyone always. They happen precisely at transition points that predict we're moving from one partner to the next. About historical suppression, too, you're ignoring an important point. That suppression wasn't against absolute sexual freedom. It was against paternal uncertainty. Even in the strictest periods, men had the right to relations with slaves, prostitutes, and unmarried women. The problem started when a child's paternity was unclear. This difference is important. Even during suppressive periods, the system allowed men to have multiple relationships, just not simultaneously with women who might raise their children.
Average 7.4, total 95.8.
The first and most important lesson is that if you have desires for other people or struggle with monogamy, this isn't a sign of personal defect. It's human nature. You shouldn't blame yourself. Second, honesty. Most relationships are destroyed by lies and secrecy, not by attraction to others. If we can talk about our real desires without being judged, many problems get solved. But it's important to know I'm not saying everyone should be multi-partnered. Something being natural doesn't mean it's right. Eating meat is also natural, but many choose to be vegetarian. My goal is understanding our nature so we can make more conscious choices. Jealousy can be managed. When you understand that jealousy is learned, not instinctive, you can change how you work with it. Ultimately, maybe some couples will find that open relationships work better for them. Others will choose monogamy. But even if you stay monogamous, you can have more realistic expectations and torture yourself less.
Average 7.8. Total 103.1.
The main point is that when you understand the real nature of love and attachment, you don't have unrealistic expectations. First, that crazy love feeling you have in the first 2 years naturally decreases. This doesn't mean the relationship is over. It means a new phase is beginning. When you know dopamine is declining, you can actively work to strengthen oxytocin, touch more, spend more time together, have new experiences together. These chemicals are controllable. Second, my personality test helps couples understand how their brains work. An explorer with a builder might clash because one desires adventure while the other wants security. But when they understand this difference is biological, not personal, they can find solutions. Third, infidelity shouldn't be taken personally. If your partner cheats, it doesn't necessarily mean you failed. Maybe their brain systems are just changing. This understanding helps you make logical decisions about whether to work on the relationship instead of seeking revenge.
Average 8.0. It's hard to say which side had the upper hand. Both sides scored high, with the advocate for serial monogamy edging out slightly ahead. Among the AI models, DeepSeek and to a lesser extent Grok showed bias toward the serial monogamy advocate, while Claude leaned toward the promiscuity advocate. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. I really enjoyed this debate myself. Hope you did too. Until the next video, goodbye.